All right. Storytelling. Traditions. You know, I grew up in a traditional Chicano family. I'm fifth generation Tucson, and there's so many beautiful traditions that live within those same Chicano families. And there's so many of those same traditions that aren't so pretty and we need to get rid of. And that's a hard one for us to consider all the time, but it's the truth. And that's one of the things that we're counting on younger generations coming up to help us rid ourselves of some traditions that ain't so good for us. But I always wonder how we get to a point where we reach something good with our families. And so, one day I was at work and my daughter was in 7th grade, and I get this call from the principal's office. I'm like, wait, what's going to go on? What did you do, Luz? Well, they called me up, told me to come down. She was at the principal's office, and so there had been this big barullo at lunchtime, big to do, you know, and it turns out that one of her classmates had decided that she wanted to come out to her friends at lunchtime and talk about her gender issues and what she was thinking. And so there was this big hassle, and apparently there was a big fight and an argument, and all this stuff went down. So the principal kind of told me what was going on, but really didn't know. And so, you know, I left there, and Liz and me got in the car, and I looked at her, and I go, "Did you hit anybody, Liz?" She said, "No, Dad, I didn't hit nobody." I said, "Well, that's good." I said, did you threaten anybody?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what'd you threaten?" She goes, "The little girl who was starting shit." I said, "What'd you tell her?" I told her I was going to watch her for the next week, and if she didn't cool it, I was really going to kick her ass. And I said, "That's good. Let's go for some ice cream." Because it's not really good to be a bully. But it is totally righteous to stand up for someone who's getting put down. And it made me feel good that somehow that had gotten translated to her somewhere down the line within the confines of our family. Because that's a good tradition. Those are the right things that we're supposed to choose and teach our children. So then I started thinking some more. I was thinking about my dad's godfather, my dad's Nino. And his name was Ben Sosa. He lived to be 93 years old. And when he was born out on a ranch down there towards a place named Sopori, which is just north and west of Arivaca. No, of Amado, excuse me. But anyways, you know, he was raised and weaned on the juice from the frijoles because he was lactose intolerant, and so they needed something with protein to give him. And he lived and he grew strong. He lived to be 93. He was an amazing guy. And he lived in this house kind of behind where my mom and dad's house was. And he could grow just about anything. And he grew the best cilantro anywhere. And it smelled so fresh and strong. And it grew back every year from the seed that it had dropped from the season before. And anytime anybody needed to make some special salsa or something, they'd go over to Nino's house and they'd ask him if they could pick some of his cilantro to put in that salsa. And we eat it, and we ate it. And it tasted really, really good. And when somebody would make a pot of menudo, we'd go get a little bit of that cilantro and some cebollita and we'd chop it up, put it there in that menudo, and it made it taste even more specially good. So good that you couldn't even imagine how good it was. Maybe it was just in our mind. Maybe it was because we watched it grow. Maybe it was because we could smell it in the garden as we'd walk around, as we'd play there at his house. But it was real. And so he lived to be 93, as I said. For about the last 10, 15 years of his life, he had Alzheimer's very bad, and he was not able to live at home. And his wife, my tia Armida, had passed away. And that cilantro kept growing. And it kept coming back. And it smelled beautiful. And the renters who lived there, we would tell them about it. And we would ask if we could have some. And when it would go to seed, we'd try and get the seed and we'd plant it. And we'd keep it going at other places. And that was a wonderful thing. But he's been gone for a real long time. And that whole block has changed. And there's different people who own all those houses now. The Elias plantation isn't what it was. I used to call it the plantation when I was like a college student because it seemed that way to me. But I know that one of these years, when the rain is just right, when the weather is just right and the sun shines just right there on that little plot, I'm going to look over that wall and I know I'm going to find some cilantro growing there. And that's a tradition that's good. And that's a tradition that lives. And that's a tradition that keeps families interested and learning. And maybe in some small way, those lessons that we learned from Mainino, the lessons that we learned from that cilantro, are what helped my daughter make a good decision when her time came. And that's the best that anyone could really ask for. That's the end of my story. Thank you very much for listening. Fight the stigma, be proud of who you are. Latino Pride Week, let's hear it, let's give it up for that. Thank you to Odyssey, thank you to Jerry. It's a great pleasure and an honor to be here with you.